Hey guys, it's Will Krisky from Potato Strong. I just want to talk about some weight loss tips, fat loss, that I've experienced from people emailing and some of the YouTube videos and that type of thing, just to help you out to make progress and get in, do this lifestyle correctly. So one of the things you can ask yourself is, is your current uh, are your current habits, diet habits, working for you? So a lot of times there's actually a problem, but you can think it's okay, or maybe not really believe that that's causing an issue. But if it's not really working for you, that's kind of the Dr. Phil thing. You might want to try just objectively looking at what you're eating and try to figure out what's happening. So I've seen all sorts of different things from emails and from YouTube and that, like I said, and I'm just going to go through some of them. Some people, when they go to, a plant-based diet, fruitarian or starch, they're not eating enough. So when you eat a meal with fat and dairy and meat and all that stuff, it might be a plate full of food or a plate and a half or something like that. But if you're eating vegetables and fruit, you need to eat a lot more to get the same amount of calories, because the standard American diet is very dense in calories. So you need to eat more volume is basically what I'm saying. So what'll happen is people will not eat enough, and then they'll either go back to the meat and dairy or binge on something that's not really healthy for you. So now, related to that is not eating enough starch. So the reason I focused on starch-based diet and starch solution and potatoes is because they're very filling. They have that energy density through the starch molecules. Other stuff like fruit and they're simple sugars, and some of the vegetables don't have enough starch in them. So you just have to make sure you eat enough starch. So I would start out with fairly large portions of starch, like potatoes. So I would eat almost, a half or more at least. I've sometimes eaten a whole plate of potatoes, to get that full feeling. Over time, you can play with, if you get stuck at a certain weight, or you can sort of reduce some of the starch and eat more vegetables, but it's a bit of a tricky area to get into. So I would advise that make sure you eat enough potato starch, because I even eat rice in that, and a lot of times it doesn't seem to be as good. Rice and beans and corn together, like in my tacos, are really good, but I just feel that it's not enough. You got to make sure you eat enough, because you're going to be tempted to snack in between meals and even go off the rails completely and say, this doesn't work or whatever. So when you get hungry, that's when problems can happen. You can eat crackers. Hey kitty, what's the matter? What's the matter? So you can... What's the matter, baby? So you can actually end up snacking a lot and binging on things like crackers, desserts. You might even go into fat stuff. You might even go into, peanut butter and all sorts of things, nuts, because you feel like, I need that to get full. So I would avoid being hungry. Make sure you eat enough, and like I say, the starch is key. I would avoid high-fat vegan products. So you'll see a lot of stories about people who went vegan and they gained weight, and some people end up figuring it out. But it's when you go vegan, it's very exciting, because I can find vegan versions of sausage and cream cheese and ice cream and buttery spreads and stuff like that. So you basically find the equivalent, but it's not a dairy product. But these are actually high in fat, and it it just seems to be a common scenario that people get into when they go vegan, is finding these vegan versions of everything. And there's some transition value, like if you eat soy hot dogs or some ground round or something like that, it can sort of help people transition from the meat and dairy when they eat certain things. There's like chicken strips and things that are vegan versions, but when we did that, it didn't really make a lot of difference, in the weight loss, because they're just as fattening as everything else. So it's something that I discovered that you really don't really want to get into too much. For the most part, I would avoid those. Vegan desserts. If you're like on some of the Facebook pages for various vegan sites or bloggers or whatever, you'll see just a plethora of desserts, and a lot of these have a lot of nuts, and then they get even bad with oils and vegan butters and tons of sugar, brown sugar, and all sorts of stuff like that. So if you're eating desserts, you're generally eating those in addition to your meals. So those are just really extra calories. So that's another trap that you can get into, is just focusing on all the desserts that you can make that are vegan versions. The nuts and the oils and the avocados can really, if you're not eating meat and dairy, or you're coming from fruitarian, you might start eating a lot of nuts and avocados and oils. And I just find that those are, oil is refined; it's 100% fat. Avocado, it's a healthy thing to eat. Nuts can have some health benefits, but it's just, if you have them in the house, the nuts can just get eaten like crazy. That's the other thing, is even if you have nuts and you're just putting a little bit on food, most of us, if we get hungry or we want a snack, we're just going to go and find those nuts. So I find it's just better not to have that stuff in the house. The oils, especially. I don't even use oil anymore. You can fry things in water, and you don't really need oil. We bake French fries like without any oil. If you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to lose fat, or you're plateauing or slowing down, I would try to limit or avoid the avocados and nuts as much as possible as well. We found that going 100% was the best thing, because your taste buds will adjust. If you always have some junk and you're still eating it, you're still addicted to it. Doug Lyle talks about the pleasure trap, and I feel different about this particular situation that we're in now, because it's been a completely 100% commitment. And I just feel like it's like if you're smoking or drinking alcohol, you're not really going to drink a few drinks or a few smokes a day. It keeps that connection, that addiction going. You think about it every time after you finish doing that, you kind of want you're waiting for the next time that you're going to eat it. So going 100% into this and finding good foods that you love and that you really like is probably, what I would suggest people do. Moderation is sort of what I'm talking about here, is that it doesn't seem to really work. Because you're always gonna think about that, and those things tend to grow. If you put a little bit of oil in something, it tends to grow. Like I mentioned before, I was using sun-dried tomatoes in oil, and I started adding more and more oil from the jar, and because it tasted good, and just kept beefing up the oil and the quantities of the fats that I used, the mayonnaise and the Caesar salad. It kept getting more and more. I've also seen a lot of denial about what people are eating. So they don't, when they do, a lot of scientific studies show, are actually done with self-reporting. So they kind of ask you, what did you eat? And they go back days or weeks and months, and people are just terrible at remembering what they eat. And some people don't want to even say what they're eating, and they don't remember, and it's just terrible. So a lot of people are underestimating what they're actually eating. Like if they're eating a normal standard American diet or even vegan, people are really in denial of what they're eating. So there's a lot of crackers, and they're not thinking they eat that much oil, or they don't eat much peanut butter or whatever it is. But if you actually looked at it, there's probably a lot of that stuff happening. So I think trying to be honest with yourself and really looking at what you're doing. Fast food joints and restaurants, since I started this July, I haven't gone to any restaurant or fast food, but I know that some people are going to have to. And but the general rule of thumb is just avoid. The people that I know that are going to restaurants and a lot and eating out, they're generally heavier and unhealthier. It's just so you can do it. You can ask for special meals to be made. You can find a baked potato at Wendy's or whatever, but the odds are against you. And you're there. The temptation is there. A lot of stuff's not made very healthily, and um, you know, if you're going to go to a restaurant or go to a dinner occasion, I would eat at home, eat some potatoes, get filled up, and then just have something small when you're there. Because it's just going to be tricky to find stuff that you didn't put a lot of oil on or stuff. But you can do it. You can ask and try to be, you're going to stand out with the people you're with, and you're not always going to be able to get those alternatives. So generally speaking, I would try to avoid those situations. Try to meet people, outside of a food establishment. If you want to chat with people, why do you have to, do it at a restaurant? So there's lots of other places to meet. Sometimes there'll be a lot of excuses just from the resistance to doing the lifestyle. So you'll be saying, there's allergies and sensitivities to things, and I'd like it to. If you have a problem with a certain potato, white potato, try red or russets, or try sweet potato, or if you have trouble with all sorts of potatoes, try rice, quinoa. There's all sorts of things. Pastas. There's all sorts of different types of pastas. You just got to be persistent and really try. Like, don't just give up and say I can't eat this stuff because I have issues. And those things are really tough to determine because there's a lot of foods that we eat. But I would say that just work hard to find alternatives and make sure that you actually do have an issue with those, because there's flour and in all sorts of things. So if you have issues with pasta, there was probably flour in desserts and things like that. And there's you can find alternative ways to make some things. So be persistent and really try to find alternative starches that might work for you. I mentioned a little bit about social situations, as far as fast food and that. But if you're actually going to family gatherings and friends and stuff, a lot of people are like, well, these people are going to want me to eat this or that. What I found is, if you just don't say anything and you just eat what you want, a lot of people don't even notice if you don't make a big deal about it. But if people are giving you a hard time, I would really try to stand up for yourself and be a leader. Be confident in what you're doing. I mean, I've had people make jokes and they're not in great shape, and I just kind of smile, because it's like, I'm not going to really take advice from this type of a person. And I advise that you just be confident, have that quiet confidence. You don't even have to say much, but just don't give in and eat stuff because someone else wants you to do it. It just doesn't. It's not the way to go. Just a couple of final things here. There's a lot of people that are in the 80-10-10 fruit, raw food, that type of thing. And when they look at people like Durian Ryder, who's exercising a ton, he just recently put some stuff up where he's biking hundreds of kilometers a day. I mean, it's like 7,000 calories in a day. And he has to eat a lot. He has to drink juices and blend banana and date smoothies. And part of that is getting him going in the morning, and then he has to keep eating that stuff. So the exercise, he was saying that the exercise is driving him to eat more calories, and most people couldn't do that. But there's people that email me that gain weight on banana date smoothies. It's pretty easy to eat more than you need. It's not going to make you magically get up and exercise it all off and give you all this amazing energy like people are talking about. You might have a job and you don't have time. So eat the food whole. So eat bananas. If you want to eat bananas, eat dates. Eat them whole. But basically, if you blend things, it's breaking down the fiber and that, and it makes it easier to overconsume. I'm not saying that it's bad in the sense that it does something to the food, but what I'm just saying is, you look at like a blender full of banana dates, it's, over 1,000 calories easily. And so people like Jeff Novick and that are advising people to eat their food whole. So it's going to digest slowly in your system. It's got the fiber and the water and everything in there, and just it's going to reduce the amount of calories that you can eat. Like if you eat natural whole foods, you'll have some sense of how much is enough. It's a natural instinct. When we eat foods that are high in fat and with all sorts of hidden sugars and things like junk food and fast food, we can't really sense the caloric value there, and we also are lacking in some of the nutrients, so we tend to overeat. But I think that just eat the food whole. And you have to look at people that are exercising a lot. You don't eat. Not everybody's going to eat the same amount of calories. So unless you're doing long distance runners, and that's driving you to consume more calories, just eat the calories whole. You don't need to be drinking fruit juices and blending smoothies all the time. If you eat low calorie density food, so you got your salads, fruit, vegetables, starches, legumes like beans, you're getting, with beans and that, you're getting close to, kind of a good calorie density. Be a little careful with the pastas and the breads. I mean, they're good food, the whole grains, stuff like that, but basically, it's getting up in the higher calorie density areas, and that the total calories do matter. So, when you're listening to people, whether it's doctors or authors in books or whoever, you got to be skeptical. Don't just, the news media says something's good or bad. Be skeptical. The best thing to do is to look at the science. So a lot of the authors and doctors will reference studies, and you got to take some time and look at the studies a bit. They're not too bad if you look at look at how the study was conducted, look at some of the results, and just question things. Don't just accept what somebody tells you, even me. So, I expect people to look at a lot of the things that I'm talking about, and just experiment. Like, you could just eat a bunch of potatoes for lunch and dinner, and at like a good portion of it, even if no matter what else you're eating, just eat a big pile of potatoes, no fat potatoes and no fat gravy, and see how filling it is, and do that for a while. Give it a chance and see how you do. It's not going to be a major change to just throw in a whole bunch of potatoes to your diet, and that's going to sort of crowd out some of the other higher density calorie foods that you normally eat, like the fats and the oils and stuff like that. Okay, so I just wanted to give some tips, some practical advice that I think will help you guys. Like I say, we're eating mashed potatoes and French fries, like baked fries, and tacos and chili and soups and salads and cereal and all sorts of great stuff. And it's comfort food. It's tasty. There's a mix of raw and cooked. It's not a big deal. And people that are fruitarian or people that are even meat and dairy can really get on board on this and have all the benefits. So hopefully some of this will help you. Make sure when you're weighing yourself that you're looking at not just your water weight. So when your carbs are stored in your muscles like glycogen, and that can store water as well. So you really got to try to check your body fat. If that's what you're trying to reduce, is getting a body fat monitor, either on a scale or one of the handheld Omron ones. Some body measurements with the tape measure. There's calipers you can get. So, and there's more fancier tests that you can do, but look at your clothes. If you're losing, your clothes are going to get looser and things like that. There's visual aspects to it too. So the scale can be deceiving. So my advice is, maybe weigh yourself once a week. I don't do that as much as I should, but measure yourself once a week, and as well as the body fat, and track the progress. Because the scale can be deceiving at times as far as what people gain. So a lot of water weight and stuff like that. So, all right, So good luck with that, and let me know what you think, and ask more. If you have more questions, post them in the comments. Thanks, guys. See you.